So let's face it, Fiendsmith is going to be an incredibly expensive engine. And because of that, Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitively will be ridiculously expensive. But today, big dog, I guess they threw us a bone, and I'm going to be letting you know about the top 5 budget decks that you could be playing depending on your situation. You waiting for your next paycheck, broke? I got you. You broke because of bills? I got you. You so broke that noodles is a delicacy? Big dog, first of all, chili flavor. Secondly, I got you. I'll also be uploading some personal deck lists on my Patreon as a special thank you for helping this brokey truly. Let's go ahead and jump on it. What's going on with y'all, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. As you already know, every single Monday, we gotta do an Update Monday, a particular portion of the video where we talk about something to not only better you as a player, but to better you as a person. In today's Update Monday, I want to talk about something that's really important, something that will help you grow as a person. It's always challenge yourself. There are going to be times throughout your life where you are pushed by outside sources. Then there's going to be times where you simply aren't. That doesn't mean you shouldn't stop being pushed by a source. You can be the best way to push yourself. Often when we face challenges and beat them, we become better people on ourselves. So even if there isn't an outside source challenging you, you should be doing it yourself, because I always want you to be better, big dog. And that's exactly why I wanted to make this particular video. I actually wanted to challenge myself outside of my normal top 5. See, usually I would talk about the best 5 budget decks, then put them on the tier list, but this time around, I actually want to talk about the best 5 budget decks that can fit your criteria. In this particular situation, I challenged myself to pick 5 budget decks that were affected by Infinite Forbidden that you guys can pick up on. And starting off with the very cheapest, it has to go to Gimmick Puppet. Now, Gimmick Puppet is going to put you in a really interesting spot with some of your friends. You're going to figure out who in the shop really likes you and who in the shop was just pretending incredibly quick if you pick this deck. And the reason why is because Gimmick Puppet has one means of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! To finish off your opponent as fast as possible, which is the theory of Yu-Gi-Oh! But with Gimmick Puppet, it's slightly different. See, Gimmick Puppet has something called an FTK, meaning that it can finish off the opponent in the very first turn. And there were some incredibly powerful new cards in Infinite Forbidden that just so happen to be commons and supers to make this deck extremely viable in that sense. The new field spell Mansion in the Underworld Dolls not only allows you to search a Gimmick Puppet, it can also make your monsters unaffected by any effects that are Xy'd, which is incredibly hard for your opponent to do if you're going first. It can also special summon monsters on your field to your opponent's side of the field. What's so shocking about Gimmick Puppets is that there's been a lot of FTKs before, but this is the first time that Konami has openly endorsed an FTK type Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck, a strategy that is built on being able to win the game right then and there before your opponent ever gets an opportunity. And what's really cool about this particular scenario is that even the past Gimmick Puppet cards that you'll need, they're not really expensive at all. This is easily one of the most cheapest competitive decks to come out of Infinite Forbidden. Pretty sure you can build the entire deck for about $50. But to keep it 100 with you, it does come with genuine drawbacks if you can't pull off the FTK. One of them being Gimmick Puppets aren't really strong outside of that FTK region. There's some cool things you can do if you can't FTK your opponent, but to be honest, there's cool things that a lot of decks can do. Also, if your area starts to prepare for you, this deck can fall apart. It's one of those strategies that can be incredibly gimmicky. Kind of like how that one person that takes Burn or Flew Under East or even Eldritch Stun to a locals to take everybody by surprise. But I wouldn't say that this is a deck for long-term success. Can definitely be really good to get a kick out of your friends though. While Gimmick Puppet may not be the strongest, cheapest deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, and I'll be sure to make a tier list to give you guys an in-depth on everything Infinite Forbidden or not, it's still a really powerful strategy that can be incredibly strong. But now we gotta look for a budget strategy that I think has the most potential. And it's pretty simple. Madolche. At my rogue tier list last week, I did talk about a couple of problems with Madolche. The first one being going second into a board, and the first one being consistency. I genuinely think that those are strong problems with Madolche, but with this new support, it's incredibly hard to ignore how much more powerful the deck has got. Madolche Meow Cannon is probably one of the most cutest, cuddliest, strongest cards in the game right now. Getting you any Madolche card from your deck to your hand, but allowing you to shuffle any card from your graveyard back into your deck to special summon a Madolche Madolche monster to your hand is huge, because if you have your field spell Madolche Chateau in the field, it goes directly to your hand instead. That's right, guys, Madolche Chateau doesn't just return Madolche monsters to the hand instead of going to the deck, it's any monster. Madolche Dessert allows you to be able to bounce 2 monsters on the field, including a Madolche, then special summons a Madolche XC to your side of the field, which I think also is really cool. While it may not have any materials, cards like Glass Souffle can still shuffle those cards back into your deck, and if you have Chateau in your field, it goes to your hand. Keep in mind, big dog, I keep on saying go to your hand. The reason why I keep mentioning this is because there are some really powerful cards in the game that can be used multiple times during a turn. Herald of Orange Light is one of those prime examples. Since it does require a fairy, something that Madolche uses a ton of, not only can you stomp any monster effect and destroy it, because of how Madolche is built, you could essentially add it back to the hand as well as another fairy target to use it again. The same could be said about other card effects like Effect Veiler, and if you really want to get freaky, you technically could reuse Dimension Shifter. Take with that information you will. Madolche even got a new Exceed monster that allows you to be able to shuffle monsters on your opponent's turn. Queen Tierra Lafray may look really difficult to summon, but when you actually break it down, it's incredibly easy. It gives me so much hope for this Yu-Gi-Oh deck, especially since it's so budget. The only expensive card for the deck is Madolche Salon, and fortunately enough, you only need 1 copy. This is another one of those decks that can pretty much be built on a $50 budget, and you can have a ton of success with if you fix those 2 problems. Madolche has so much potential to be a dominant deck in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. In case you didn't know, I really do like Madolche. The aesthetic and everything about it is incredibly fun. I remember when it first came out, it was a deck that people looked at and didn't really give enough credit, so it'd be really exciting to see the deck turn some heads. But if you were looking for a strategy that already has success and was incredibly budget, there's only really one answer when it comes to the most powerful and the most budget. It's going to be Tenpai Dragon. Tenpai Dragon can be seen as Gimmick Puppet, except 1, a lot less gimmicky, but 2, pretty much the same outcome. Instead of killing your opponent on the first turn, this deck is built on going second and breaking your opponent's board and killing them on your first turn, which is the second turn. So essentially, you do allow your opponent to get some form of interaction, at least a little bit, before you summon Tenpai Dragon monsters. Now, not a lot has changed about Tenpai Dragon. It is still the 2nd most successful deck statistically in the last few Yu-Gi-Oh formats, but there are 2 new cards and a new theory I want to talk to you guys about when it comes to Tenpai Dragon that may blow your mind. But first, for the new direct support for Tenpai Dragon Genroku is actually a crazy good card. It's the Snake Eyes popular for the deck, as when it's added to the hand, not only can it summon itself to the field, it can also modify its level. It also can special summon itself as a tuner, which is huge because before, Tenpai Dragon Chandra was the only monster that was Tenpai Dragon and a tuner. And to make matters worse, this is a quick effect, meaning you can attack with this card, tribute it, summon another Tenpai Dragon monster, gain its effects, and then attack again. The only drawback for this card is that you're locked into summoning dragon monsters for the rest of the turn. Really? I just find it incredibly funny that Konami seems to put a lot of restrictions on the budget decks, but on the higher end, they don't even have these type of restrictions, which is still a joke, by the way. The new Tenpai Dragon Sanjin Koho can skip your opponent's main phase, which can be really useful in certain situations. And then there's the new monster that isn't a Tenpai Dragon monster, Pocky Draco. That is not the card's name. True Draco, Soldier Boy, Draco the Ruler, I don't know. Dora Draco can also be a starter protected by your Sangen summoning because it is a Fire Dragon monster. So essentially this deck went from 6 to 15 ways to be able to get into its starter and OTK your opponent. I think that's huge. But another one of the biggest things about Tenpai Dragon is that I think a lot of players have been playing the deck completely wrong. This is going to be a secret between me and you, but I don't think that Tenpai Dragon is a synchro deck, which is really weird because it comes full circle from the video that I made a couple of weeks ago about synchros dying. I think Tenpai Dragon is better off as a link deck that can use synchro plays to be able to finish off the game. It's a lot easier to link summon than it is to synchro summon, and to be honest with you, a lot of the link monsters are completely busted. You can take with that information as you will, but even with Tenpai Dragon Genroku being an ultra rare and Pedra being around a $10 super rare, the deck still checks out as about under $100 to be very competitive inside of this format. Tenpai Dragon may be the simplest way to win a game out of this budget tier list, but there is a deck that I think could be a lot stronger, but it comes with a little bit more complications. I have to say, after doing a deep study, I was a little bit wrong about Drytron on last week's Rogue tier list. It probably deserves to be a spot higher. You see, Drytron still does have its problems. Drytron New prevents you from being able to ritual summon into non-machine ritual monsters. That means that some of your most powerful ritual monsters are completely offline. Dead, don't even think about them anymore. But I will be the first person to admit that I was looking at the glass half empty as opposed to the glass half full. This deck can still link and exceed summon as well as summon other powerful monsters. I also like that your most expensive card is well deserved. Drytron Nova is a 1-card combo into almost anything you want. If you want to summon Drytron Meteorus Alpha Draco Nids, which can negate monster activations alongside of an IP Masquerena, or if you want to keep it incredibly simple and search a monster like Vanity's Ruler to shut down your opponent from special summoning, those are options all on the table. But I still do think where Drytron's biggest complexity comes from is the current meta that we're in. I made a hand trap tier list last week, and some of the biggest hand traps that will be played right now are Drolin Lockbird, DD Crow, and Bystials to a degree. That is absolutely painful for Drytron decks, but at least they're not going to be playing Ally Adjusted Cycle Reader. Maybe. Some people said they were really going to play Ally Adjusted Cycle Reader. I think that Drytrons are going to have a huge challenge on their hands, but on the benefit, just like Madolche, this is another strategy that can play Herald of Orange Light to help offset some of those problems. And also, like I said before, outside of Drytron Nova, the deck is incredibly budget. I think this is another one of those strategies that you can build with that $50 to $75 range. While ritual strategies may not be my forte, I know a good strategy when I see it. And the more we get more ritual machine monsters, I think Drytron will progress pretty nicely. It's a strategy that's relatively cheap and fairly easy to get. Now for my last strategy, I genuinely had to challenge myself. And of course, there are some hidden gems in Infinite Forbidden. I want you guys to let me know down below in the comment section, what do you think some of those strategies are? The last best budget deck for this month, I picked a strategy that I think is severely underrated. And with that being said, there was almost no strategy in my head that came more underrated than Plant Link. A lot of people think that Rika, Sun Avalon, Arrow Mage, Ragnaraka is just a deck that can have success in Europe. You couldn't be more wrong. I think the biggest problem for Plant Link in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that players simply just don't play it. It's a combo deck that's very similar to Dragon Link back in its heyday. It simply just won't go away and takes advantage of any new support card it can get its hands on, which Infinite Forbidden does have some. I'm not even 100% sure if Plant Link will ever use Ragnaraka Hinjanome, but this card does help the strategy by being another body that you can summon to your side of the field. It also allows you to draw cards. I will never deny drawing cards. The new Link monster in Kero Kumitsuki is also an interesting card that allows you to be able to destroy spell and trap cards on your opponent's side of the field. Again, another card that I'm not 100% sure they'll use, especially considering that both of those cards are Insect and Reptile respectively. But there is another monster which I'm confident they'll use. The new card that Plant Link is getting is Cosmic Tree Irmastic. This monster gives you life points equal to the attack of the monsters that your opponent summons, and then it can pay life points to be able to increase its attack. The best thing about it is that it can increase your life points during your opponent's turn. There's already a few cards in Plant Link that activate when you gain life points, and not only can this card make itself incredibly huge, it can trigger those effects too. I think that there's going to be instances in Plant Link when this comes up and makes the deck a lot stronger. But that's all that I have for the top budget decks out of Infinite Forbidden. I think that these budget strategies are pretty interesting coming out of Infinite Forbidden for their price. And I can't wait to give you guys a tier list to be able to reflect all of the strategies, Infinite Forbidden or not, and give you guys a better guide on strategies that you should be able to play.